Hi folks, welcome to the Team Regionals event. So we are watching the rest of the semi-finals today. And let's see what the situation is. So these are the 4 teams that have made it. And the first result, actually, it's not updated here, but it's already over. House Hanover has beaten Knights of the Crockery Buffet. That was, they won the first 2 games and then lost the last one when the match was already decided, so it's 2-1 to House Hanover in that one. And in the other pairing, the old Nanjing versus the Fist of the First Man of Ottestad, we have a 1 game played, was won by old Nanjing, so the Norwegians now have to win the last 2 games to make it through to the final. And well, these pairings actually, so the decks that the players were supposed to play have to stay as they were drawn, but the actual players have been changed around a bit because there were scheduling conflicts and illness and stuff like that. So we're not exactly sure who will play what deck today, but the decks that will be facing one another should be these 2. I hope I got that right. So the Chinese team will play Tyrell, Banner of the Lion, which is what is it? It's a Knights deck with Tourney for the King, Closer, and interesting. So we have Political Disaster, easy to play in Tyrell, I guess. We have both resets, both Valors, which is not something you see very often, and we have Economy, also the Father, interesting. And so a lot of the little knights that can you can spam the board with them and go for the tourney to close the game. And we have some of the shadow stuff as well, including of course the Knight of Flowers, who can stand to gain a lot of renown. And let's just see the event. So nothing super special. 3 copies of the Iron Bank will have its due, interesting. And clever find. So nice mix between Knight's Rush and the Shadows deck. And the deck this will be up against, just a second. Yeah, I think we got that right. Just getting confirmed on Discord that this is the pairing. Yeah, this is the Norwegian deck. So Greyjoy, Fealty. And what do we have with this one? Any surprises? I think it's quite similar to what we've already seen in this tournament. So this one going for which restricted card is it? Does it even play one? It does. It plays Pike. Okay, 3 copies of Pike as the restricted card, which means there is no Alanis in this deck. We don't have the 7-cost Asha, but decks have been quite happy actually to switch to this one. And it was strong last night when we saw Greyjoy beating Stark with stealth on the board, with Victarion and Asha, of course, both having stealth due to her ability. And what else is here? So we have Core Balon, we have the Box Euron, the redesigned version, of course, and we have the same with Victarion. So pretty typical stuff, and a little more focus on the warships, with Pike being the restricted card of choice. The saves, 1 Sweet Sleep. You can see all 3 in some decks. And let's see the plotline. So Morgulis is pretty obvious. We have 2 copies of Brand the Builder, which every Pike deck plays. And okay, not running out of cards this time, because Counting Coppers should come to the rescue, hopefully. Although against Political Disaster, you are tight with the gold if the opponent gets you when you play Counting Coppers. And we have Return to the Fields. We take Westeros, which can take something from the discard pile. That often is just used with the Iron Gate to get more draw, but let's see if there is a target here. I guess the scenario that would be a dream would be to take something like one of the big econ locations like the Arbor, or just grab that old town and you gain power instead of the opponent, or something like that. So this is these are the decks. I don't have an additional screen here, so we're just going to have to remember them. And let's have a look at the game. Okay, so Superduck is the pilot for the Chinese team, and yeah, he is tough, one of the best players around. Seen him in the online events quite often, including of course the last friendly open season. And starting with that arbor setup and the stuff in shadows. And here we have a green apple knight who needs some bodies, of course, to get activated. And we have a dupe on Sir Mark, which is slightly unusual because you can, of course, if you trigger him, you have to place him on the top of your deck, and then he cannot be saved, so the dupe is just wasted. And what do we have on the other side? Slightly unfortunate setup for Zini, it looks, because he has one unimpactful character. He has economy and he has silence. Okay, that's not a bad card, but Sweet Sleep ends up on this eager deck, and unfortunately this terminal, so when he gets claimed, which he surely will, that Sweet Sleep is gone. You can, I guess, can you pike it? You can pike it back into your hand, I think, if you do that, if you use pike in that way instead of trying to mess with your opponent. So pike hitting green apple knight, for instance, would be the play that I was thinking of. We have to read pike very carefully when it enters play, because it's quite complicated as to what it can target and what exactly happens. Has a lot of text, and it's not been played that often that I would just know all the interactions off the top of my head here. So let's see if something decent comes into play. So Brand the Builder revealed for Zini, and whatever he finds, of course, silence, if it's a warship, can put it straight into play, so that's pretty decent. Get around some economy restrictions that way. No pike, unfortunately, and we have Victarion, but he will be under slight pressure here to defend himself if we only have these two characters. Yes, hello to Floydos. If you'd like to commentate with me, you can join me. Otherwise, you can tell us how you see this matchup going. I think it's should be really interesting, but I think that Greyjoy has started slightly in an awkward way here with just these two characters, and will find itself under pressure. There is a card in shadows, I don't know what that is. Was it only a copy of Night Flyers that was in the deck? Night Flyer can, of course, target anything, including the limited cards. So if you do some crazy Night Flyer discards the Arbor, then we take Westeros and you use Euron to get it, or something like that. It's a decent play. Any kind of choke, I don't think, is happening in this matchup. Tyrell is just too solid with economy, and there's another econ plot. And we have cheap stuff like Cerberus. This time he gets cancelled by the Drowned God Fanatic. But it is an extra character to turn on Green Apple Knight. Of course, increases his strength as well, but the main thing is that he does not defend, he does not kneel to attack. Sorry. So I was going to say he does not exhaust. I think that's a term from the Lord of the Rings game. Okay, here comes a warship. It's not an impactful one, but it brings in an extra character, and now there is no real pressure. And yeah, Light Summer Fist just gets more cards, and we'll see Victarion probably now successful in the counter attack. Maybe he can grab at least one renown, so 2 warships, and no locations really to kneel, so guessing 1 stand and 1 trigger for the renown. He could stand twice also. Yeah, that is an interesting interaction actually. So if Mark gets put on the top of the deck, he's an automatic hit for Boros then, since he's a non-Lannister knight. And then you can put him into another challenge. Of course, you don't know exactly what the card in hand was when the cards in hand were when Superduck made those decisions. Old Town Undercity, also an excellent card in this deck. Can really play around with that top card. You can set it up for Mark, you can set it up for Old Town, for the Boros trigger if you want it guaranteed. Although in this matchup, let's be honest, in this deck it's going to hit. It's not like the Lanny Shadows deck that we saw Leonard playing last night, where Boros actually missed. This one, it seems almost impossible that it would miss. And of course, you get one in hand as well, right? You can take an event or something, and one to the bottom. So if anything is dead draw or something like that, you can put it to the bottom. And if you get 3 good cards, you often shuffle the deck as well. So it's not like it's permanently stuck. So Zini uses the warship to stand because Victarion defends military. Grabs that Great Kraken, which now of course cannot be cheated into play because silence is already knelt. And Victarion will do another one, seems. But now the warships are spent. So I would say that in this opening round, in the end, the Greyjoy deck achieved a lot more than the Tyrell deck did. So Tyrell will be ahead on power unless we see some Iron Bank will have its due and then something else comes into play. Okay, we do see something similar at least. High Tower Knight cheated into play, but not strong enough to win on defense, right? So that's going to be another Brand the Builder trigger. We have Great Kraken in hand, we have Victarion in play, we have his selection of warships. So all in all, pretty good, but we know that there is Morgulis and O'Harris in the Tyrell deck and Political Disaster to get rid of these locations, so these are not dupable, and I'm guessing cards like Great Kraken mostly will be 1 copy. I'm guessing because I forgot, of course, we did have a look at the decks, but don't remember exactly what the location set was there. And this deck, of course, is set up pretty nicely because of this draw location. This will just make sure there is a steady set of answers and solutions, I guess, for anything the other deck does, as well as grabbing, of course, all the cards in play that turn on the non-kneeler, and then if you swarm and you're, let's say, halfway through on 6 or 7 power, then you can go for a big tourney for the king. And yeah, having used a high tower knight here in the standing phase, that means we're not going to see a reset now. And I think it will be up to Zini to stop the knight swarm at some point. Another Brand Builder against the father. And yes, so the father is very useful in taking something small and something that has a reaction to entering play, like Boros. He's kind of the perfect character to use with that, and I'm guessing on the other side we'll see Victarion or whatever the biggest threat is being targeted. Of course, you save them from your own Dohaeris in that case, but I don't think that is the plan at the moment. Not as long as there are a lot of knights in play. Useful intrigue icon. Yeah, card designed by the 2011 European Joust champion, who just happens to be the reigning Stahleck champion as well, and we'll get another card design for that. So looking forward to seeing that at some point in the future. And we have Gwyneth Harlow, if that's how she's pronounced. Card you do not see very often, but let's see. So choose 3 cards, that means there have to be 3 cards in the discard pile, so currently she's not triggerable. And you can put them back for a very nice benefit, so I guess we'll have to wait for 2 more cards to find themselves in the discard pile. And then she will be able to draw 1 card and gain 1 gold. But can you discard them fast enough that she can trigger every round is the question, and outside of pillage decks, probably not. Of course, the opponent can help you if they play events and if they have dupes that find themselves discarded. So just a reminder, the Chinese team is leading this match, so if they win this one, they win the match, and then rumors are that the last one will not be played because of a tight schedule for both teams and Christmas coming up. So if the Norwegian team wins, then of course we'll see game 3. And what do we have here? Okay, Boros going back along with the Undercity. So if you have the gold, the Undercity of course can just trigger again on itself if you have nothing better to do. But Boros looked like he was the perfect target for the father, so I guess he'll come back into play before that dominance trigger. And he is as cheap as they get, of course. And yeah, we have Floydus here in the chat. I think you played him a lot in testing, and I think that's probably one of the cards that turned out slightly overpowered. Should have been nerfed a little bit more in the design process. course, he was one of the big reasons this Tyrell Lion deck was strong at the beginning of this year. I think it was 2022 when that China versus Europe championship was being played, and also some of the national events that were held online. This deck was one of the three strongest decks in the game at that point, with white swords, of course, also available as a plot to get some big bodies into play very cheaply. And the deck has been, of course, hit with the restricted list, so it's not crazy anymore, but you still see it played, and you see it played in the big events. And here comes Boros, so he grabs another little knight that will go back to... Oh, it's discarded, okay. That will be discarded, unfortunately. Unless it can go to hand in some way before that. Faction card is knelt now though, so no Iron Bank will have its due. So a lot of characters in play that you can avoid giving any unopposed away here. And then just with this green apple knight and a power icon you can strike back. Okay, taking the one that was going to leave play for claim, makes sense. One thing though, currently there is no renown, so if we have tourney revealed, these 5 of course would all be gaining power if they were in a challenge together and they won, and Green Apple Knight can do 2 challenges, so things can go pretty quickly, but at the moment none of these have renown and we don't have the Knight of Flowers in play, so no huge damage done. Except that, of course, Zini has knelt out most of his board. He has the stand though on Victorian. And we still have a silence trigger, and I believe that Great Kraken is still in hand. But hasn't brought it in yet because both challenges here were opposed, so it wasn't going to trigger. Yeah, Boros has been moved around a little bit on the restricted list and the pods. Not sure what the current pod is exactly with him. Guess we can we have a quick look? It should say here, right? So podded with Surveillance 1 and the white swords. So in a Kingsguard deck. And it is possible to play it with the White Book agenda as well. You can, if you want to play Boros to grab the Kingsguards very cheaply, you can grab a big body like, I don't know, Baris and Selmy or something. Then of course you're not also going to be doing that with white swords. Have to choose one over the other. So Vic strikes again, and this time seems like if Silence puts another warship into play, okay, doesn't use the warship to give him renown. Guess he's not expecting him to stick around, right? Because the father surely will get him. You could, I guess, play the father into political disaster, so that whatever body, big body you return back is not going to be played so easily. Oh, okay. So Vic is getting pinched, and then something like the Reader can get returned. And there is a bit of board control without even playing the reset there, which is pretty decent. And here comes Old Town. So what do we have here? This is an action, doesn't need to kneel, so she could now be triggered, right? She could put these cards back and gain 1 gold and draw 1 card. And straight action that doesn't really need any gold, so you could do that in taxation if you think it's a base this round. Great Kraken lost to reserve, and Silence still standing. Still keeping the one that has Sweet Slip. Yeah, pinching Victorian definitely open up the chance to at least win these challenges, and it's some nice free power. Now, do we see the Old Town trigger to gain another power if it hits? So, of course, Superduck is over reserve, but it will restand again anyway, so may as well trigger it. Try our luck. Or is it luck? I'm not sure. Maybe he has the top card now because he has these triggers. Mark, yeah, of course. So up to 6 power. And now, do we see that Gwyneth's trigger? Or not, is the question. So, generally, there is no good reason not to do it unless you think that these are some three great cards that somehow will get shuffled back and the opponent has a chance of drawing them. So in specific matchups, if you see annoying cards, for instance, if I was playing against Martel, Hollow Hill, and there were 2 copies of Dorn here, I wouldn't put them back. But other than that, I think no reason not to trigger it. Oh, and now, of course, way more choice after that reserve discard as well. But misses the trigger. And we have Econ on both sides. Okay. So there we are, targets the non-kneeler, but of course we might see that back at some point. So now let's examine exactly how this mechanic is going to work. Okay, you can ambush the warships. That's one thing. The other is, so anytime you play a Greyjoy location, and the problem is that we have silence in play and pike now in play, so Great Kraken was discarded, and the others are fairly cheap, so the targeting restrictions there will be there won't be any 5s or 4s coming in, so you will only be able to choose the cheap cards. So another non-loyal, non-limited card with equal or lower printed cost, and that gets put back on top of the deck at the end of the phase. The opponent draws it. Of course, the opponent will draw it here because Old Town is in play, so just grab that green Apple Knight back, and unfortunately you won't quite get rid of it. You can just get marshaled. And is it possible to use it on Sweet Sleep? It is. So if you put one cost location into play, like what's that gate? The Iron Gate. You can target Sweet Sleep, put it on top of your deck, and then you draw it in at the start of challenges, I guess, which is not ideal, but for instance Victarion with that to protect him from pinch on the Indrik challenge. Not bad. And okay, the Meister cancels out Old Town. Problem is though, there is the Undercity as well, and if that triggers, then it will just add green Apple Knight into hand, right? And here we go. Strong suspicion that that was the card. Yeah, so 6 power, and let's see what Superduck ends on here. So ideally he would play Tourney and try to get to 15, and then if Zini can stop him on 14 and there's power on characters, then Morgulis takes that power out. But it will be pretty close. Whenever that turn is revealed, we know that things are getting very serious. And on the other side, there isn't that kind of strong closer, so this deck just wants to dominate in the challenges phase, get through the resets better, but it's not being allowed to do so at the moment. And that one copy of Pinch, I think it's one copy in the deck, or maybe two, on Victarion is really strong, because Greyjoy can't really defend itself on the Intrigue challenge. So I was thinking that just getting that Sweet Sleep onto him so that can't pinch him would be nice if Zini can manipulate that. So this round Gwyneth has been triggered. Leaving that annoying clever feint, for instance, in the discard pile, and also the location. We take Westeros is in the deck, so Orton currently in play. There is a chance to discard it, and also there is, of course, political disaster at some point. And if you can time that with take Westeros, there's a chance, of course, that Greyjoy can take one of the locations. But I don't think we'll have time for all of those 7 plots to somehow be played. The power gain is too quick here. Boros brings another body with a power icon. A lot of these are just being recycled somehow. If you get the sequence right, get things on top of your deck and add to hand with that Undercity and put it in shadows with Clever Feint. It's all very strong if you can do it correctly, but there is a lot of opportunity for misplays there. So Superduck, of course, is an excellent player. A double Light Summer Feast. Refill the hands a bit. Again, just using that character that was going away as Claim Soak. So that's another use of Boros if not bringing the Knight of Flowers or anything like that. You can just get 2 more characters into play for very cheap, and one can be Claim Soak. And is this strong enough? Still that Standing Silence, so Superduck needs to be a little bit careful not to allow any annoying warship to come in as a surprise here. There is Maiden's Bane, can stand Victarion for what that's worth, but he isn't really that strong in challenges at the moment because he doesn't have Renown printed. You would need to use warships for that, and no Intimidate on him. So I guess the other one would be nicer. Well, if you could get Stand and Intimidate onto him, would be very nice, but let's be honest, he's a bit OP as it is. But there is one thing, so in the Greyjoy characters, the ones that have more than one copy, so Balon, Victarion, Euron, and to some extent Asha, they're designed really well that almost everything is playable. I guess the 7-cost Asha was a bit crazy, so when that got restricted, the 6th cost one, seeing more play, and the core one always was a good character, just the other one stronger, but all 3 Balons seeing play, both Eurons, both Victarions, so really nice. You see that in some other factions as well. For instance, the 3 Robert Baratheons are all getting played, but then some characters have more than one copy, more than 2 copies in some cases, but there is really only one choice unless you're getting a bit creative. Daenerys, for instance, a bit annoying how the 5-cost one has basically pushed the other 2 out of decks. Here comes the pinch. Losing the reader, the 1 character with an intrigue icon. But surely with the Light Summer Feast draw, something useful will be in hand now. Four characters in play, so not that close to being able to win with the tourney. Or maybe it is. Let's see what the final power total here is. So tourney has 3 gold, but with the 2 locations will be quite a bit, so I think it would probably win the game. So if you play Morghulis expecting tourney, then these all die and the board will need to be repopulated. Then it's a question whether you can with 8 gold, whether you can get enough of them into play to close the game. It's possible, especially with Old Town being able to trigger as well. And if you had one of these turned on, then it would be very possible. But Zini wins the power challenge on defense. So up to 8. So 7 needed, including an almost guaranteed Old Town trigger. And I think probably that's what we'll see now. What do we have here? Another clever feint. Yeah. So Boros will be coming back with another guy. So now that Morghulis play, yeah, not looking that great, because for 1 gold you can get 2 knights, and yeah, 1 fanatic gone, the other 2 still available. Just give me a second, I'll close the door because there is some background noise. Okay, sorry about that. Knight of Flowers goes for reserve. And the Catspaw, that's such an annoying character when you have gold to spare. So last night we saw a 90-minute game between 2 heavy reset decks that was played without a time limit, and yeah, took a long time, and I think one of the players got to 12 and the other got to 15. So this time, of course, there is a time limit, so that's another thing. If you consider your Morghulis to either try to preemptively get the number of characters down before turn is revealed, or you try to survive on 14 and then play it. The problem is, of course, that opponent is ahead, and you need to win before time expires, and that's not looking good now. Yeah, 2 non-kneeling knights, 3 non-kneeling knights, and unlikely that they can be piked. As I said, equal or lower printed cost, so you will need a 3 cost location to just get one of them. The power icon's still weak, but the problem is these 3 can gain 6 renown between them if they win military and intrigue. So do we have a solution? 6 cost Celisi would be nice, but I think she is not in this deck. Well, duped Valen, so if you survive on 14, then we can have a game, I guess. Problem is, Boros is now coming in with another guy, and Undercity will place something on top, then Old Town will trigger and gain power if it's not cancelled, and if it is cancelled, then the defender for the intrigue challenge is gone as well. And what's this Nightmares doing? Is it getting... it's getting Pike just in case, yeah. There was I'm not sure if there is another one besides Great Kraken that is cost 3. Silence put something into play. Or just ambushed, I guess, also. And then one of the Green Apple Knights could be targeted, but... there was a Fanatic for Boros. Okay, so maybe Murgulis... but yeah, then we got all 3 of these, right? You get all 3 of these and Boros, so just these 2 would be gone. Still would be enough for Superduck to win, I think. Yeah, quite comfortably. Okay, doesn't seem to achieve much. So there goes the Meister, which means we'll now see Old Town, surely. Or could it be that Super doesn't care, he's just going to put everyone into the military challenge? Yeah. They're not big enough, unfortunately. Would be nice if at least one of those Green Apple Knights could be gone with Pike, which of course got Nightmares anyway, but just hypothetically. So, nice game from Superduck here. Yeah, the thing is here that that pinch of powder and the father getting rid of the Greyjoy board allowed him to just play the game without ever needing to play one of the resets. And yeah, Zini always on the back foot there. And if he'd played the reset, there was a lot of draw, a lot of manipulation of cards into shadows and the top of the deck, and never really a good time to have any hope of reducing the board here. And yeah, I guess drawing all 3 without any particular search effect, even though less than half of the deck was drawn, is quite favorable. But yeah, have to draw something. If it's not this, then it's the Knight of Flowers or whatever. So okay, so Zini will now join us to comment on the game, I guess. Looking forward to that. Let's see if we can get that set up. And so yeah, it will be the Chinese against the Germans in the final. Team Hanover awaits, and that will be really strong. And with the World Cup also starting in a month, I think we'll see a nice preview of what that tournament could look like, because the Chinese and the Germans, I think possibly the 2 favorites. Germans have won it twice, and the Chinese of course have won the last Battle of the Nations event. So that should be really interesting. Okay, let's see if we can get Zini into the stream.
Hello, hello.
Hello, so let us know, guys, in the chat if you can hear Zini. So, how did you find this game? Was it fun?
My mindset was kind of I saw this deck of his and I was thinking that okay, let's go into this and without any I didn't need to have any nerves because I was pretty sure that his deck kind of counters everything I'm trying to do. Just the plot line is like perfect counter, I think. I should probably be able to do better than what I did, but I think this was really hard for my deck, and we were not surprised to to not win this one, I guess.
Yeah, tough
But
one. I think that pinch of powder, there is only one copy that
yeah,
allowed him to control the board even without playing the resets, without having to play Duharis to get rid of Victarion was a really strong play.
yeah, and of course that old town move he made there as well. Like, okay, he knelt out my maester there. I could have just dropped to do it, but I think my mindset also wasn't the best. I was just okay. I just cancel it, and then he marshals pinch right, and then you know you're in great trouble when he just yeah. I can just do this and win this intrigue challenge no matter what. So yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. But I do believe he would have gotten that pinched through anyways. But it was a stupid move. I think that was the big error I made. But yeah, what can you do? Like these locations, they are staying here for maximum one more round, or at the time whenever they are getting seriously dangerous, he will just shut them down because he also has political disaster rights. So yeah,
Yeah, and not a lot duped on your side, and then once you
yeah.
get to the last few plots, if the game is still going on and you have to play that Morgulis with low gold, it's a
Yeah.
problem as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think let's be honest, the better team went through to the finals here. We the Norwegians do good in these tournaments because of the open deck list. We get to practice against what we are playing versus, which is very good for the kind of newer players. Now my team isn't filled with new players, but we are. I think we are one of the least experienced ones, and we have done a great tournament, I think. So this is yeah, yeah, we are happy with this, and now we can just watch the others getting uh, nerves before their final because some of the matches has been yeah, really tense. Not this one, unfortunately, because they have been so much better in the matches they've played. So and the last match is not going to be played, unfortunately. We decided that if a team went 2-0, we're just gonna give the team that's up 2-0 just to win, so we can keep on preparing for Christmas. I guess that's good for everyone.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't think anyone will mind, so we can concentrate on the final. So congratulations to you and in general to how the game has developed in Norway. We have three players here. I know that Leo has played very well in the last Champions of Westeros event as well, and we have Kristin making the almost making the final there, losing in the semifinals in a close game. So and we have another one, Sophia, right? Also
Yes.
playing really well recently. So looks like
Yeah.
you are prepared for that World Cup.
Yeah, we're gonna be kind of settled. So our team is almost ready as well. So I think we might be the first one to announce our team for that. We got 7 players as of now. So it's some players are borrowed from other nations, but yeah, as you say, we got some players that are really like punching almost above their weight, I guess. Kristin's playing brilliantly in Champions of Westeros. I got most of the game last night. Nico was in control all game, but just to be there is amazing. And before Champions of Westeros, we were talking about like, okay, let's have one of us make the top cut, and I believe all of the 4 that played in Champions of Westeros actually made the top cut, so that is kind of brilliant. So yeah, we're looking forward to some Thrones now. And just in February when the World Cup starts, so it's gonna be good. So, and thank you so much for taking time to stream some of the games there. We've been trying to stream ourselves, but we just haven't found the time. So we hugely appreciate what you do for the community, Miha. So just keep it up, and we'll try to follow you and create content as well. This is
Yeah, my pleasure. So next week, obviously, we are all a bit more relaxed. There is a bit more time, and
yes,
I'm happy that that coincides with the finals of both of these events that are currently being played. So we'll try to bring you that Champions of Westeros final between Nico and Alex, which should be high quality. We don't know the decks yet, so
yeah,
should
it's going
be
to be a really good one.
interesting.
Yeah, we got two finals, and I hopefully we get to stream them both. And yeah, I'll chat some with you and see what you can cover, and I'll try to cover what you cannot cover. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess I'm off now. I'm making the last preparation for Christmas, and so Merry Christmas to you and to those who listens, and thank you everyone for joining my tournaments. It's yeah, it's really cool that we got so many playing Thrones these days. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna tap out and say goodbye here.
All right, nice chatting to you, Zini. So have a nice
Yes,
day
you
and
too. Bye
have a good
bye.
Christmas. Bye bye. And to all of our viewers, we'll say goodbye as well. So just to leave you with this, it hasn't been updated yet, but the final coming up next week between, as I said, House Hanover and Old Nanjing, and I believe that's a best of three as well. And as Zini said, we'll try to get all of those games covered for you in one way or another. So let that be it for today, and hopefully see you in all of the games next week as well. Bye bye.